So it's a perfect thing to use for biomass.
There's the amount of trees that are dying because the insects that used to die they couldn't cross over certain mountains or barriers because they'd get a hard freeze, they wouldn't survive. Now they've crossed over those natural boundaries and they're killing a lot of trees.
You're seeing that in the forest in Canada?
There's a lot of forest dying in Canada from pine beetle kill, yeah. And then there's a lot of wasted wood because you can't use it as lumber. So it's a perfect thing to use for biomass.
And I imagine that we can find a lot of other sources of biomass, and REGENiTECH's trying to raise some money to build our own next version of what we call the Dragon. She called it the plasma dragon, so it kind of stuck. But the idea is to generate enough heat that we can break down other waste materials so that we can. The plastic pyrolysis thing is probably the first thing that will happen, but we can break down other types of waste. So we can always have what we call a dirty stream and a clean stream. So the clean stream goes into organics for farming, and the dirty stream, we can find other uses for that. But so we've been looking at that for breaking down landfills. So the idea is if we're going to do a system, we put one of those, we call it a REGENiBox data node. We can put it in an area and we can gather cloud data, temperature data. You can get a lot of that from satellites, but it's really best to actually get it right there on the site where you are. I actually go into here and expand that out. So the yellow line here, that's the amount of energy that's coming from the sun. It's coming into the system there. This other green line is, we call it pH, the pH of the water tanks that are out there. But you can see how jagged this yellow line is. That's cloud cover, right? And so there's so much information, when we have our own version of AI. It's agentic AI. So it's basically we're looking at data and we're controlling. We have agents that actually look at the data and try to say, well, what do I need to do to improve this situation?